Thank you so much
Putting
to
the,
Vashi for being on with us.
you very much.
My sincere pleasure. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me, and I can't wait to chat with the students and hopefully answer their questions or concerns and give them a little peek into
For sure.
what they could expect.
Yeah, awesome. And just for a little background for people tuning in, Vashi graduated from Country Day in 1988. He then went to Michigan. Then he played professional hockey, and now he is a film editor. So Lauren and Dwight came up with some awesome questions for Vashi, and we're super excited to have them interview him today. So I will hand it over to Lauren.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi. Okay. So just a little bit about myself. I'm Lauren. Right now I'm a junior, and I've been taking film classes at Country Day ever since I was a freshman, but I've always loved film several years like before that too.
Awesome.
Right now my main focus though is everything in front of the camera. So like acting is something I'm really passionate about, and I'm really looking forward to like pursuing that in the future. But yeah, Dwight.
That's wonderful.
I'm Dwight. I'm a senior. I came here in 6th grade, and I've been taking film classes since sophomore year. I like to focus on more behind the camera stuff, directing, camera work. And in the fall, I'll be going to New York University for film and television.
Nice. Congrats. That's a great program.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just saying earlier that you guys are so lucky to have a film program. Like when I was there, we had, arts and crafts and whatever, but nothing so specific as definitive filmmaking. So take that, be really grateful that you have that.
All right, so we'll just jump into it, I guess.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your time at DCDS, and can you talk to us about how your experience in school impacts your career today?
Yeah, no, definitely. I came to Country Day in 6th grade and then, graduated 6 years later. The story I was alluding to earlier was we didn't have a filmmaking program, but I was actively making like short films. My dad played for the Red Wings, and one game he won a VHS camera that you put on your shoulder that came with a so I could set up one VHS and record to the other one, and that way I could shoot whatever I wanted, then pick the little individual clips and cut it together. I think it was my sophomore year, I talked to Mr. Duggan, who was my English teacher. I had a book report, and I asked, can I make a short film instead of a book report and present it for the class? And he was progressive enough to say, yeah, go ahead. So I got like 7 or 8 students. I cast them. I took them to my house in Franklin in the woods. We shot a short film. I cut it, edited it, added music, and then I got to present it to the English class. And I think anyone who's in a creative, that when you get a good response to something that you create, like that energy in the room and just that tangible feeling, it's so rewarding that I was, 13 at that point or 14, and I was right away like taken with filmmaking, especially getting that opportunity and that response in the room. So that's how I started, and that was all Country Day, and that was amazing. So quick start.
All right. What was it like to transition from professional sports to the film industry, and how did your family impact your career path?
Sure. Like I said, with my dad, I got lucky enough to get some of the gear, which now is, in your pocket or whatever. You can make a film on anything. And then we do that in Hollywood. But the transition from sports to professional filmmaking and editorial and directing and acting and everything I've done over the last 20 years in Hollywood, I think there's a great similarity between sports and this industry, because if you think about it, on a sports team, everyone has a role, right? There's a goal scorer, there's an aggressive person, there's a defensive expert, there's a rover. For whatever sport you're playing, if it's a team sport, everyone has a role, and the team does best when everyone does their role. And I found that in post-production and in Hollywood, you're part of a team again, and you have to be able to do your job, do it really well. And only after you do your job can you try and like help out somewhere else. Like you got to not stay in your lane, but just be the best at your role, because then the collective does a lot better. So if you're an editor, you shouldn't be out there trying to light the set and give suggestions to the DP. You won't get hired. No one will like you. They'll be like, oh God. So definitely the transition is similar from sports, and just know that if you get into any kind of professional situation down the road, just know your job, do your job, be alert and aware, and just contribute. So you're a respectable and trustworthy piece of the puzzle.
That's really cool. How's creating the post-production workflow for something like Deadpool different than for a project like Gone Girl or The Good Doctor?
Sure. Yeah, no, I've been lucky enough to work on some really big films that a lot of people have seen. I mean, I edited Sharknado 2 as well, the best of the Sharknadoes. So be aware of that. But working on a film like Deadpool, each individual project has a different approach of post-production in terms of how you edit it, because you have to consider what cameras you're using, what kind of storage you're using. There's a lot of technical components that you have to have lined up for it to work. And if you don't set up your projects and organize all your footage and organize your entire thing at the front, then it's only going to hurt you downstream because there's so much material. Like, for example, Deadpool, we had 550 hours of raw footage.
Yeah.
So that's how much they shot before we started editing. And if you look at that, if someone watched for 40 hours a week, just the footage, I think it would take like 16 weeks just to look at all the footage once. So being able to manage that kind of amount of footage is critical. And then being able to organize it. So when the director says, well, on the third day, we did this scene and I like the fourth take, how do you get there fast? So as an editor, my job is to organize, be familiar with the footage, offer up my take on everything, but also be open to experimenting and trying my own things and finding the right time to show that to the director, the producers, and being able to like read the room. And so that's how you approach every project. It's always different. You always have to set up for it differently. Different people, different components, different computers. Always got to be flexible and ready.
So what are some of your favorite projects that you worked on?
I would say definitely Deadpool was really exciting because it was a huge challenge. And then secrets to be told, the last 2 weeks before it was done and before it came out in the theaters, the director and Ryan Reynolds weren't even talking. No communication between the two of them. The director thought it should be more action orientated. Ryan Reynolds thought it should be funnier, more comedy orientated. So we're still doing post-production, but they're not talking. So there's like this dread in the room. But then the movie came out and made like $180 million its first weekend. And surprisingly, everyone starts talking to each other again. And everyone's friends. So there's different components to having success and having those kind of things happen. But it's different again for every project. You just got to be aware. What was the question again? Because I forgot one part of it, which I want to add.
Just what some of your favorite projects were.
Oh, yeah, there we go. The other one that I'm really proud of is a documentary that I edited called That Which I Love Destroys Me, which was about, we followed two like Navy SEAL type troops that came back from like 4 tours in Iran and Afghanistan in the early 2000s. And we followed them for 5 years, and they were both struggling with PTSD like so many other veterans. And we followed their up and downs of their journey of trying to reacquire relationships, to reintegrate themselves into society. And it was really hard to watch because when you're part of something like that, you're filming them and you're interacting with them. And we traveled all over the world to film them. You have to maintain that relationship as a creative and a cameraman or a friend, but you don't want to interact too much into the story. You don't want to become the story. You have to document. And that's very hard if you're an empathetic person or if you have feelings where you're trying to help them and solve things. But those are the problems that they have to solve themselves with the help of whatever means possible. And, some of the people ended up well in the film, some didn't, but that's life and that's what happens. So being part of that process to tell their story so other people know that they're not alone when they're dealing with these horrible, both mental, physical, emotional problems, that made me really proud. I'm very proud of that documentary.
Hey,
Really
real quick, Vashi, could you repeat, what was the title of that again, please?
It's That Which I Love Destroys Me. And I'm sure it's streaming for free. After like the first 3 years, they were like, this is too important. This was actually shown at the Capitol building and at Walter Reed in Washington, D.C. when it came out. It was shown to all the senators, and we did tours over all the different U.S. bases to show it to the soldiers, both active and retired, because they needed to hear that it's okay to admit that there's something wrong, because we're all trained to be as hardcore and as like never show any cracks. But this was much more important to let them know that they can share this and will help them.
That sounds amazing.
I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah.
I want to hand it over to Lauren now so we can talk more about your film career and your future goals.
Sure.
All right. So the next question. So we read that Six Below was like one of the first feature films to be edited in 6K
Yeah.
and shown as the 3-screen immersive film. So for some students who don't like understand that like terminology and technology, do you mind like explaining it a little bit?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what
I'll
were
give you the quick.
challenges
Yeah.
that came with that?
I'll give you the quick once over. So normally you see a film, it's a screen like we're looking at here, we're on, it's one screen. In the past, there used to be Cinerama domes where there's still one in LA. There's a couple left on the planet, but they would use 3 cameras to project 3 images onto this curved screen, and it looked like one screen. And they had to sync the audio and the picture to present that. Now, those are so few and far between that they decided to make theaters called Barco Escape Theaters, where it's 3 screens. 3 regular size screens, but they're at an angle. And I'll send a link so you could check it out. But we had to shoot this film at 6K because we needed that much resolution to project on 3 screens. And I had to edit it with 3 screens up in my edit bay. And it was a technical challenge, but we also had to make 14 different versions of the movie. So a 1-screen version, right? The 3-screen version, a web version, a different version, a plain version, and there's different rules and regulations for each version. So when I finished editing the film once, I still had to do it like 13 more times to create these deliverables, which are the final assets that go to the theaters and to the production houses or Netflix or wherever you're delivering. It's still like it's a technical problem that always exists after the creative.
Yeah. Let's go to. So what was it like when you saw your work on like the big screen for the very first time?
That's always impressive. And I think it calls back to that moment in the classroom, with Mr. Duggan in my English class, where you watch your film at home, you watch it in the edit bay, but the moment you're in a auditorium or a theater with hundreds of people, there's a palpable air of excitement, there. And the funniest thing is when the movie starts playing, you can't stop it. You can't like run away and hide. It's terrifying. And you all of a sudden see all your mistakes. You all of a sudden see, oh my God, this is taking too long. I should have cut quicker. Oh my God, they laughed over the joke. They didn't hear it. So all these concerns come when you see it with other people. But that's the beauty of filmmaking. And that's the collaborative, magical moment that when you project your work, you get that response. And it does not train you. It just teaches you what works and what doesn't. And you try and like repeat the good things, but every room is different. I've seen some of my movies play amazingly in one theater and then not so well or die in another theater. So it's really interesting. It's just, it's a matter of what happens that day, but to show your work, the first time I saw one of my films, I think it was like 2005 on a screen in Hollywood in Quentin Tarantino's theater, projected on a big screen. It was best feeling. Best feeling.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So what are your goals or your plans that you have for the future?
For the future, right now, I'm just finishing up a feature-length documentary on my father, Vashi Nedomansky, who played for the Red Wings. He was inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame a year and a half ago, and it's a documentary about his journey and my journey from defecting from Czechoslovakia and defecting to North America, and then all the adventures that happened both in Europe and in North America. And as the director of that and the editor, my job was to tell an amazing documentary, but not in the big heads talking way. Like I don't like seeing like old people with a big camera, big images, and they say, when I was little, I did this, and then I did that, and then this happened. Like, I don't care. I want to transport the viewer. So about 95% of the film is archival footage, meaning it's original source footage from the 60s, 70s, 80s that I've gotten from Czechoslovakia, from the Hockey Hall of Fame, from TV stations, from my own personal archives. So almost the whole film is archival. So you feel like you're back in that era and you're not just watching older versions of the people when they were at their prime, which I think sometimes steals the power away from the story. So that's what I've been working on for 5 years. I'll have it done later this year. And then I'm also making the transition into directing more feature films, which is a long lineage of editors will end up directing, because they know what they need. When you're in the edit room, you see all the footage. You're like, we don't even need that. I don't know why they shot this. That's a waste of time. I need this, and this. So with that kind of attitude and approach, you go on set, you're like, all right, I just need this, I need this, I need this. Alfred Hitchcock used to shoot only the pieces he wanted, not because he didn't want coverage to have other angles. It's because he didn't want the studios to be able to go and change his edits. So he only shot what he wanted and what he needed. And then the editor would put it together, and then the studio would say, well, we need a different close-up. Don't have it. This is what you got. So he outsmarted the studios by shooting only the pieces he needed. And that's why I think editors or people in post have a really good grasp of that. As long as you're obviously comfortable in interacting with people, keeping the story in mind, running a good set, making everyone feel comfortable, everyone feel involved. But at the end of the day, having ownership over all the decisions and being that one person where 1,000 times a day, you have to say yes or no to every single person coming up if you're the director. And I have no problem with that. So I'm ready for that.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing that documentary. That sounds like it's going to be.
Oh yeah, it's great. A lot of Detroit footage from the 70s and 80s before most of you were even born, but it was so amazing, like what it looks like and how it's changed and that whole era.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for current DCDS students who may be going into like future college athletes or professional athletes or thinking about being film editors or filmmakers?
Sure. I think with sports, obviously there's sports and everything else, like there's the work that you put in, and it has to come from a place of passion and desire. It can't be coming from someone else pushing you. It can't be your parents saying, this is what you have to be. At the end of the day, it has to be your choice. And that passion and energy will really drive you. You're part of a team. Like I said before, sports team, you have to know your role. You have to be trustworthy. You have to be dependable. And that translates directly into, post-production or any job. I mean, if you're the person that people trust and depend on and value and repeat, you keep repeating that, like that's the best asset you can have. Skills and talent will get you halfway there. But the people in my industry after playing and being in Hollywood, the people that are dependable will always get the job again. The people that are talented but are not nice to work with or not fun to be around, they may get hired once, but not again, because on a feature film, you're there for 9 months or 10 months. And if you see the same person and they're always being a, whatever, I usually swear a lot, so I'm doing my best to hold my tongue. So believe me. But yeah, oh, screw it. So no one likes an asshole. I'm so sorry, but that's the truth of it. No one puts up with that. And that works at every level, in every sport and every job. You can be great at your job, but if you're that thing, then no one wants to be around you. We like surrounding ourselves with people we like as a person, who have value, who value themselves, and they're dependable. And that's the most important. And the last thing is the people around you right now in your classroom and the class before you and after you, the years before, that's your huge core that you should be tapping. You should be reaching out to, including me. You get to meet me today, but if anyone wants to reach out on any concern or question or advice or whatever, like use the core group that you have. You spend so much time with these people. I have lifelong relationships with a lot of people at Country Day that I will always reach out to because we earn the trust of each other and we like each other. And it was a huge network. The alumni group does a great job in different cities to offer that up so people can stay in touch and reconnect. And those are where a lot of my jobs or connections stem from and grow into. So make sure you stay in touch. It's really important. And that's like half the reason I came back today, to talk to everyone and just reintroduce myself and to see how you guys are doing, and just so proud that you guys have a film program to give you those options and get your not only feet wet, but to create something that you can be proud of at an early age.
Yeah, we're really lucky to have such
Yeah.
a program. And Mr. Solomon, I saw you pointing. Mr. Solomon always points out to me, talent only takes you so far. He literally tells me that every single day.
It's
And
the absolute
true.
truth.
It's true.
It's the absolute truth. I mean, yeah. So all those images, all those cliches of like the director being all big and yelling at everyone, those people exist, but they bounce around so quickly and then they're gone. It's the people like Scorsese and the relationships like he has with Thelma Spoonaker, his editor for 35 years. Like, it's those things that matter and those things that carry on. And, it's just being a good person and being a pleasant person and working hard. It's really the simple tenets of life for anyone, for anything.
Yeah.
Right.
We have like 10 minutes, so if you want to ask people if they want to come off mute and ask a question.
Okay. Yeah, so if anyone has a question, you can just probably come off mute and ask if you have anything.
I have a question.
Go.
What are your biggest pet peeves when you receive footage as an editor?
Biggest pet peeves are usually like bad framing or bad lighting, like just not, because that means I'm going to have to do a lot more work. One thing that happens a lot is the editor now today in this world is expected to color correct all the shots, stabilize them, reframe them, do split screens. So half the performance is faster than the other side. The producers and directors know we can do this. So now we have to do it. When I started, I was just cutting picture and audio. I'm saying like, just cut the picture, the audio, make sure it's in sync, and then drop some music underneath. But now we have to have all the music available. We're auditioning different tracks. The director's like, let me see 3 different songs. Let me see every take in a row. So the biggest challenge now is staying ahead of the technology and being able to do all that stuff, because it is expected of us at the highest level. And people that don't do it, they say, oh, I only cut picture and sound, then you're not going to get work. So you have to have an extensive skill set that touches on and has a good firm grasp of audio, music, basic VFX, like pulling a green screen, stabilizing a shot, reframing it so it's attractive and matches the other shots. So a lot of directors now, they just spray and pray. They shoot 3 cameras, they shoot everything. It's called dump truck directing. And they just give it to the editor and say, there you go. You got every angle, go crazy. Fincher is notorious for this, not in a bad way, because he's very selective. He knows exactly what he wants, and he does use all those angles. And Kirk Baxter, his editor that I know, he's so grateful because he has all those angles, but every angle is perfect. Every performance is perfect. So it's a lot more to pick from. But if you're not Fincher and you're just shooting 3 cameras and shooting everything, you're just your editor's gonna hate you. Put it that way.
If anyone else wants to hop in, ask any questions.
Where's Don Nystrom? Did he show up?
I think he joined from the phone.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Hi, Don, if you're out there.
So hi, thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
Of course.
I'm currently a senior at NYU and I'm prepping for my thesis film. And so I guess my question for you, in terms of editing, do you like to be involved in the pre-production, production process at all? Do you think that's important? Or do you like to look at things like with a fresh eye?
I think this is the big question of subjective versus objective, or if you're on set, if you're off set. I think it's better for the editor, unless you're a producer or the director, obviously, that to not go on set unless you're asked, because if you go on set, they do have the capability now, obviously, to just pull a card out of a camera, stick it in a laptop, start looking at stuff, start cutting stuff together. But there's no time, like they're working too hard. I prefer being in the edit bay, getting the footage, having me and my assistants map it out, organize it properly. So when I can start cutting, I have a scene with all the footage in it and I can start piecing it together. And I don't want to know how hard a shot was to film. I don't want to know that there's 300 people on the edge of the frame holding something up and we're on the edge of a cliff. If it's not in the frame, then I don't care. That's the only thing I can respond to and use when I'm editing. What's in the frame and the performances in the frame. It could have been the first take or the 10th take, but I got to look at it with a open heart and an open mind and say, well, that works the best and that works the best with this. And then you start stringing along things in terms of, you always have to be thinking macro and micro when you're editing. You're editing the moment. You have to consider what the moment is meaning to the scene before and the scene after, and how that sequence of scenes is playing in that chunk of the film, and then how the whole film plays. Literally one shot can ruin a film, because if you do something and we call it bouncing, like if something bounces or bumps, then you're like taken out of the moment. And that's like the worst thing you could do to an audience, is like ruin it because you put a shot in that you really loved, or a performance that was just, you think is perfect if the director makes you do it. But if it bumps, you're like, you lose the flow. So I think it's just important to try and keep that macro micro thing going, and just always have context, like what you're doing. Always think about the big picture and the tiny moment at that time.
Hey, Neto, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Sorry, I was on a system mute. I was talking earlier. So thank you
Nice.
so much for doing this. And so this is Don Nystrom, obviously Ned. Ned and I have been friends at Country Day since middle school, and I would just throw extra emphasis on the years of hockey trips, lacrosse trips, trips out to LA, et cetera, and the strength of relationships and how important they are. And without that, Ned wouldn't be here today. And I really appreciate you taking the time with all these people. And the school has put some amazing investment into this film program. It is unrivaled.
I can't wait to learn more and come see it once everything is safe for everything, because it's been, I know, a crazy year, but I'd love to come and stop by and check it out and do some more. So, and Don was great. Like I said, Don taught me something which I've always cherished. Don was always a very outgoing person, and I was kind of shy kid. I was always at home, and I learned from Don how to literally interact with people, which is right now, like 75% of my job is interacting with people before I do the work. And from Don, I learned how to come out of my shell, definitely, and how to just represent myself and just be more communicative and easygoing. So thank you, Don.
Oh, didn't see that coming.
You thought I was going to carve you, right? You thought I was going to carve you.
These sessions are incredible. We've got alumni that do such amazing things, and being able to have someone from so long ago drop in and share the incredible journey you've been on, and then this body of work that you've developed, which is spectacular, is beyond cool.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's just such a treat to come back. And even though it's virtual, it means a lot. And I hope there's some good takeaways. And like I said, you can get my contact info. If anyone has any questions or follow-ups or needs advice or anything, I'm there for you guys. So please reach out at any point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
hey,
on that
Vash.
note, oh, sorry.
One quick question.
Yeah,
Can
of
you-
course.
Is it good enough that we're teaching the kids, we're only taking them through Final Cut Pro in our program because it's so much less expensive than to get a Premiere suite, like
Yep.
a school license? Is that fine, do you think, at this
Yeah,
level?
no, on any level. To be completely honest, I prefer Adobe Premiere because I get to use Premiere Pro, After Effects, Photoshop, Audition, and they all interact with each other. But on a feature film or on any project, like an editor literally does 6 or 7 mechanical things every day. We mark in, we mark out, we insert, we delete, then we trim stuff, we add music. It doesn't matter what program or software you're using, because if you can't tell a story, I mean, you should do it on your iPhone. If you have an iPhone, you can use whatever's built in. Like literally, you just need a track for video and a track for audio. The rest is like your heart, and your head. You don't have to have anything. I can cut any feature film on Final Cut Pro. I've cut features on Avid, on Final Cut 7, the previous one. I've cut it on Premiere. So it doesn't matter because I'm doing such a limited. Storytelling is limited to just my decisions one at a time, not the software. So it's all up here, the decisions you want to
Thank
make.
you.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
I actually had one super quick question too.
Sure.
So would you say when editing, would it be better to have a wider breadth of knowledge about like multiple different subjects within editing, or like a deeper knowledge of like a couple things, like not like just a couple things? Obviously the idea is to know as much about everything as possible, but would it be better to focus your time on having a little bit of knowledge in like how to do almost everything, or having extensive knowledge in how to do like most of the base things?
Everything that you're talking about comes back to the matter of storytelling, which is affecting people, eliciting emotions, right? So for me, it's having life experience that goes directly into my work, like going outside, doing something, not just being in an edit bay and focusing on the mechanics of editing or that kind of stuff. I'm a musician. I play guitar for like 35 years. So when the music component, that filters into my editing. So I have a rhythm. I have, I can sense timing and tempo, and that's just a innate thing that transfers over. So the experiences and the skills I have outside of editing directly go into my editing. If you're worried about like being a skillful editor or whatever, it's not that. It's literally putting one shot next to another, seeing how it feels, making adjustments until it works. And some people take longer to do that. Some people take a shorter time, but I gain the most from life experiences, listening to a lot of music, looking at art, looking at something and having it speak to me, having it say something, and then applying that into my editing. I've never looked at editing as I have to push this button and this button and this button. And I'm not saying that you're doing that. I'm just saying in general, I always let it speak to me, let the footage speak to me, and I try stuff and I massage it until it works. And one last thing on terms of that is if you're editing a short film or whatever you're working on, you don't have to start at the beginning. Don't start editing the first scene. Sometimes I'll cut the last scene because I know if I've nailed the ending, if I've made the ending emotional, reasonable, it makes sense and impactful, then I get to back into it. Now I get to go earlier and I can see what my first scene looks like, and I have a little more leeway because I know I've nailed the ending. And the ending's always the hardest. You know, the beginning's always the easiest, even though we can stretch it out too long. But I like to focus on the end first and go backwards because I know I'm going to land so well at the end of it. So that's one of my secrets.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
So I think on that note, we have run out of time. But thank you for taking time out of your day to talk to us, though. We really appreciate it. And hopefully you can come in person. We can all meet you one day in person.
I will.
Well,
I'll
this
definitely
is
come
over.
in. Yeah.
Excited
It'd be
to
my pleasure.
meet you one day.
Thank you.
Okay. And yeah, thanks so much. And if anyone has any questions, just reach out. Be glad to chat you up.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk to you
Thank
soon.
you very much.
All right.
Thanks, Nedo.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank
Happy
you.
St.
Yeah.
Patrick's.
Happy casual day. Yeah. We're no
Yeah.
suits. You guys are lucky. Don, I think we had like one day where we didn't have to wear our formal gear.
Well,
Thank you so much. See you soon.
Okay. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.